Well, The Flash raced into theaters this weekend, but it looks like he stumbled and fell, just like the last two DC outings. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about the weekend box office numbers and what it means for the future of this particular franchise, but more importantly, Ezra Miller. Well, the figures are in for the first weekend of The Flash, and I'm sad to say they are even lower than the reduced initial estimates for the weekend. That's right, it appears we have another, flop for DC on our hands. Despite many positive reviews and a decent audience Rotten Tomatoes score, the Scarlet Speedster's first solo outing took in just $55 million on its first weekend, well, at least domestically. Now, this is technically a holiday weekend, and this will more than likely bring the 4-day weekend gross to about $64 million, which for a lot of films is great, but falls a good bit short of the predicted $72 million, which was reduced from $140. So the film has not done so great. Now, overseas, the movie did take in good news, another $75 million, bringing its global haul for the first weekend to about $130. In most cases, $130 million sounds like a great return for opening weekend, but keep in mind, this movie cost over $200 million to make, and Warner Bros. Discovery doesn't get all the box office money, right about half, so they are still deep in the red ink. Now, this leads to questions of why the film did so poorly this opening weekend, and I do think there are multiple reasons for this. Overall, the DCU brand is in, kind of bad shape, and to me, it's probably not a better time for the DCU reboot that James Gunn and Peter Safran are about to bring us. Now, to be fair, Gunn did say he thought this movie was great and one of the best superhero movies of all time, and personally, I felt that this film wasn't even in league for that, so I feel like that was a gross overestimation. I think a lot of fans, as far as the new and old DC universe go, are not seeing the film because they simply don't want to invest in characters they believe are going away or won't be part of the extended storyline. The DCEU has also failed to resonate with a lot of general audiences, at least not to the level the MCU has been able to achieve, and I think that kept many people out of the theater. Then there's also the issue of Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller, for the last couple of months, has been on the straight and narrow, but before that, it was an absolute legal train wreck, with many incidents happening that are still being resolved in court, and most of which have pretty shocking and sometimes violent details. I'm not sure what percentage of people didn't see the film because Miller was in it, but I do know there are many people that won't see the movie precisely because of what's going on. It's entirely possible it had a major impact on this weekend's box office, but I think at this point Miller's future in the DCU is pretty much a settled issue and not going to be something James Gunn is going to have to deal with. It was reported before the movie came out Miller's future was really going to be based on how successful this was, and this is turning into another film that looks like it's not even going to make it out of the red ink or barely turn any profit. So it's pretty safe to assume at this point that Miller is indeed done playing Barry Allen. Now, I didn't think it was a terrible movie, but these numbers don't surprise me. DC has had dwindling returns, and although this movie did do better than the Shazam sequel, it did fall slightly short of Black Adam. But Black Adam did have the star power of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which could be a great place to look on the differentials in the box office returns. Now, DC has 2 more movies to release this year, and honestly, they both could pan out to be not so great returns just like The Flash. Blue Beetle is a new character and reported to be part of the new DCU, so he might be a little immune to these results, but I think Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, especially with the info we're getting out of the test viewings, could be an absolute disaster and be another one of these DC movies that turns really lower than expected numbers. But if that happens, we're going to have to wait and see.